Hello, student. I hope you must have completed the assignment that you were given for the first lesson from the textbook Flamingo, the last lesson. You must have completed the assignment of question answer and the grammar done. Now, today we will begin the second lesson, Lost Spring by Anis Jung. As we all know, spring is the season associated with optimism and hope. It also works as a metaphor for the childhood stage of our life. Right from the time we are born until late childhood, every child hopes for new beginnings and a bright future. The phase of childhood is all about innocence, energy, and tremendous inclination towards outdoors activities along with fun and play. And playtime does not have any limits. It is also a time of getting more skill and knowledge and going to school. Here, we take a look at a particular impressive rendition, The Lost Spring Summary. About Anis Jung. Anis Jung was born in Rourkela and spent her childhood and adolescence in Hyderabad. She received her education in Hyderabad and in the United States of America. Her parents were both writers. Anis Jung began her career as a writer in India. She has been an editor and columnist for major newspapers in India and abroad, and has authored several books. The following is an excerpt from her book titled Lost Spring: Stories of Stolen Childhood. Here she analyzes the grinding poverty and traditions which condemns these children to a life of exploitation. About the lesson, The Lost Spring, written by Anis Jung, talks about the national shame of children being forced to live a life of poverty and exploitation. The main two protagonists of the stories, Sahib-e-Alam and Mukesh, do not live their childhood as they have to carry the burden of poverty and illiteracy. In their miserable stories of exploitation, the author provides glimpses of fortitude and resilience. The story Lost Spring deals with the deplorable condition of poor children who get forced to miss the simple joyful moments of childhood because of their socio-economic conditions. These children are not given the opportunity of schooling and are compelled to start working early in life. The author Anis Jung strives hard to eliminate child labor through her book. She propagates the education of children and enforcement of strict laws against child labor by the government. The message is to put an end to child exploitation and let all children enjoy their days of the spring and joy. Characters of Lost Spring Summary: Sahib-e-Alam, a rag picker. And the second story, Mukesh, son of a Bengal maker. Anis Jung has given us two stories of children from deprived backgrounds. First of all, we will see the first story which you are given in this lesson. And the first story is Sometimes I Find a Rupee in the Garbage. The first part talks about the writer's impressions about the life of the unfortunate rag pickers. The rag pickers migrate from Dhaka and find a settlement in Simapuri. They end up losing their fields and homes due to storms. They then come to the big city to find a living, but they are poor. The author then watches Sahib, the rag picker, every morning who is always scrounging for gold in her neighborhood. Garbage is actually the means of survival for the elders, and it is something wrapped in wonder for the children. Sometimes the children find a coin or two from it. Even these kids have desires and ambitions, but they have no clue about how to achieve them. There are many things that they are unreachable to them. For instance, shoes, tennis, and similar stuff. Later on, Sahib starts working at a tea stall where he earns 800 rupees and also gets to eat all the meals. But the job takes away his freedom. Be ready with your textbook, page number 13. Now, I will read the first story and give explanation. Every one of you, be attentive. Sometimes I find a rupee in the garbage. Why do you do this? I ask Sahib, whom I encounter every morning scrounging for gold in the garbage dumps of my neighborhood. Sahib left his home long ago, set amidst the green fields of Dhaka. His home is not even a distant memory. There were many storms that swept away their fields and homes. His mother tells him that's why they left, looking for gold in the big city where he now lives. I have nothing else to do, he mutters, looking away. Go to school, I say glibly, realizing immediately how hollow the advice must sound. There is no school in my neighborhood. When they build one, I will go. If I start a school, will you come? I ask, half joking. Yes, he says, smiling broadly. A few days later, I see him running up to me. Is your school ready? It takes longer to build a school, I say, embarrassed at having made a promise that was not meant. But promises like mine abound in every corner of his bleak world. Students, here we come to know that every morning the narrator encounters Sahib, a rag picker, and his friends searching for gold in the garbage dumps near her neighborhood. Sahib's family was sorry, Sahib's family was from Bangladesh, but they had left their home a long time ago. Storms had washed away their fields and homes, so they were living in total poverty. They had come to Delhi with a hope for a better life. The writer asked Sahib why he didn't go to school. Sahib replied her that there was no school near his house. The writer jokingly promised to open a school, and Sahib readily agreed to join it. After a few days, Sahib asked her if she had opened the school. The author was very embarrassed at making or having made a false promise to him. She realized that such false promises are made to such children almost every day. Um, Page number 13, second line, underline, scrounging for. Scrounging for here means searching for. First paragraph itself, line number 8, there you are given idiom looking for. Meaning of this idiom looking for means searching for. Then you are given in fourth last line, page number 12, the word glibly. Glibly. Glibly means convincingly. Now come on page number 14. Line number 7. One word is there, abound. Abound. Abound here means flourish. Flourish. Now I will read the next few lines. After months of knowing him, I ask him his name. Sahebe Alam, he announces. He does not know what it means. If he knew its meaning, Lord of the universe, he would have a hard time believing it, unaware of what his name represents. He roams the streets with his friends, an army of barefoot boys who appear like the morning birds and disappear at noon. Over the months, I have come to recognize each of them. Why aren't you wearing chappals? I asked one. My mother did not bring them down from the shelf. He answered simply. Even if she did, he will throw them off. Adds another, who is wearing shoes that do not match. When I comment on it, he shuffles his feet and says nothing. I want shoes, says a third boy, who has never owned a pair of shoes all his life. Traveling across the country, I have seen children walking barefoot in cities, on village roads. It is not lack of money, but a tradition to stay barefoot is one explanation. I wonder if this is only an excuse to explain away a perpetual state of poverty. Here, we come to know that after some months of knowing him, the writer asked Sahib his full name, and he said his full name was Sahib-e Alam, which meant Lord of the Universe. Our writer felt that Sahib was unaware of the meaning of his name, and he roamed with his gang barefoot on the streets. The author curiously asked why they did not wear chappals. One of them replied that his mother did not bring them down from the shelf. Another said he wanted shoes. While moving across the country, the writer has seen many children walking barefoot, and one of the explanations was that it was a tradition and not lack of money. She wondered if that was the just an excuse to explain some people's continuous state of poverty.